This week, it's the 1-year anniversary of the conflict between Pappy and the Imperium. Tactical Supremacy Pilots fold into the initiative. Snuffed Out have a week of super capital culling, whilst No Handlebars have a tough week. The initiative looks to fire for content, Tess continues to burn down structures in the outer ring, and Delve has a couple of unexpected engagements. Hello pod people, I'm Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online update. Welcome back. So as I said in the introduction, today, 5th of July 2021, is the 1-year anniversary of the start of the conflict between Pappy and the Imperium. Now, the war apparently is still not over. I believe Pappy still want to try and break Fortress Delve. But it does seem to have gone very quiet, as we've seen over the last few weeks. As to when that will start up again, who knows? Maybe in the next week or two, although I've got a feeling now that it may actually draw out until September before it kicks off again. Either way, plenty of stuff going on in New Eden. And before I do that, let me just do my quick announcement of my prize draw winners from last week for the Megathron Scope Syndication skins. And my winners are, for the 28th of June episode, David and Tillavine and Ebbies or Ebbies. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. So congratulations to both these guys. And I have a new skin to give away because it's a new month. And more on that later on in the show. Okay, so as always, up into my box. And here we go. We've got our New Eden map in front of us. I've got my pen at the ready. And you're going to see these are all the areas that I'm going to cover today. So we've got Fade, Veil of the Silent. We're actually going to go to Lone Trek. And we're going to go to the Forge. We're going to mention those. Scalding Pass gets a mention. Curse gets a mention. Tenerifis gets a mention. Catch, Impasse, Fethabolis all get a call as well. And a period basis. Khanid in low sec and outer ring. There you go. So lots to cover in this episode, but all exciting stuff. So it's actually been a very, very interesting week. So right, where do we start? Okay, let's start up with Fade. So in Fade, what happened up here is in the system of C4C-Z4, Fraternity went whaling against Volta rather than the other way around. And the only reason I bring this up is because both sides consider this to be an extremely good fight. That was in it. There we go. C4CZ4. Now the losses look much, much higher on the Volta side. Obviously, they lost 2 raw calls. But the thing about this fight that was unusual was that it was fought almost till the last man was down. In fact, I think the last guy left was the Phoenix from Dynasty in Volta. But you can see that we've got a Kikimora fleet here from Fraternity, and then we had a Zealot fleet, I believe. Zealot fleet from Volta. And you can see from the amount of red that they literally, Volta went all in to try and save these 2 raw calls, and Fraternity went all in to try and kill them. And they actually did succeed in killing them. So you can see literally just a few people got out, like 2 or 3, and that was about it. So not often you get fights like this where both sides refuse to disengage and just keep going. And that was really good to see. So congrats there to Fraternity and to Volta for good GFs all around there. All right, so that was kind of Fade. Then Veil of the Silent, which is also Fraternity territory. And if we actually go to Veil of the Silent very quickly, problem with Veil of the Silent is there's so many systems. I always try and remember where things are happening. So we had a Titan die. The Titan died in 4-8WWF, which is kind of right in the middle of kind of Veil of the Silent. And it was basically fleet warped. So this was another case of a Titan being fleet warped off a Keep Star. It was fleet warped off to the gate and then dropped on by Snuffed Out with a bunch of dreads, as they usually do. I believe, once again, that this was a spy situation, and they may have burnt a spy to do the fleet warp. I don't think it was done by mistake. And if you remember, Snuffed Out did this a couple of months ago to Army of Mango in Esoteria when they warped off a Titan to a wormhole, to a Thera wormhole of all things. So this looks like a very similar kind of MO here. And so that's our Titan death of the week. And they're pretty rare these days. It's not like the days of the Pappy Imperium War at its fullest, when Titans were dying all over the place. This is an unusual occurrence again, especially with the scarcity that are being undocked a lot less as well. All right, so that brings us on then to the Forge. So the reason why I want to mention the Forge is because I want to mention Obi. So in fact, I've still got my Veil of the Silent map here. In fact, let me just bring up, let me just grab my pen. So OB is down here in the corner. Now this is a low sec system in the Forge, and Snuffed Out tried to anchor a Fortizar here, and you can see there's a Fortizar death right here. So you can see Snuffed Out right there. So they were trying to anchor this Fortizar in OB, and as a consequence, Fraternity actually dropped dreads on this rather than just rely on their Tempest Fleet issues, which is what they normally use for destroying structures. They brought dreads in because it was really important that they got rid of this and that this thing didn't anchor this Fortizar. And the reason why is because of projection. So I've got a map right here, so you can see all the ones circled in white, all the areas in Veil of the Silent that would have been able to have been reached by Snuffed Out with this Fortizar. And obviously they can put dreads in there and leave them logged off and just log them in when they're needed. So kind of really critical that Fraternity got rid of that structure while it was in anchoring. And if you're wondering where the Titan died, it was right there. So you can see right in the middle of the Veil of the Silent. All right, so that's that. Then after that, we're going to go over to Lone Trek. So now Lone Trek, what happened here, let me bring up the battle report. So what we have is we had 4 super carriers from No Handlebars die. I think 3 were No Handlebars and then 1 was RSA, die in 4 minutes. And what happened here was, once again, this was Snuffed Out. This is all Snuffed Out on the left here. You can see all of these revs that were dropped. I think there was about 20 that were dropped in the end, which for Snuffed Out is probably about 5 characters or 4 characters. But either way, they were DreadBombed. And but the way that it happened was quite unusual, is that it looked like a bait Rorqual. Then No Handlebars dropped Black Ops onto this Rorqual, hence all the Redeemers on the right hand side. Then from there, it looks like Volta were the ones setting the bait. When they saw the Redeemers there, they then pounced. It looks like the Nixes then and the Hell dropped in after that, and then Snuffed Out dropped in. Now, I actually have 2 videos here. So this one is actually, this is great because this video is from the point of view of the No Handlebars pilot. In fact, let me just rewind it a little bit. There we go. So you can see that basically on the right here is the Redeemer. Then he's got his Redeemers here. Hang on. Yeah, then now he's looking to jump. So basically he's got his ult on the super carrier. He's waiting for the Sino to be lit. There you go. So he's lit the Sino. He's jumping through right now. Goes back quickly to his Redeemer. Jumps in and starts aligning out, as you should do. As you can see right now, we've only got Volta. We've got a Volta Apostle, we've got the Rorqual there, and we've got a couple of carriers that are Volta carriers. Now, as you'll see in a minute, there's something unusual about those carriers, but what happens here is you can start to see, he starts to panic, starts to white knuckle it, he's trying to get into warp because he's realized that he's about to be dropped on and all the dreads are going to drop in. So this is from the point of view of the No Handlebars pilot. So then I'm going to pause this and we're going to go over to another video. And this is from the Volta pilot. Now, the first thing I want to point out is this is a carrier with points. So they're using carriers as their tackle. So that was pretty interesting. But anyway, so if we go on from there and turn off my pen, there we go, and just to play this through, you'll actually see there's a point right here. There we go. So there's the super carriers that are dropping in right there. And then literally in 10 seconds, you'll then start to see a bunch of purple arrive. And these are all the dreads from Snuffed Out. So here we go, here they all come. So there you go, a bunch of purples appearing, and then 4 minutes later, it was all over. So just wanted to show you that. And if you're interested in these videos, then they're all linked in the description below. Also, if you have videos like this and you have some after action reports for me as well to kind of give me an idea of what's actually happening, then please do come onto my Discord, link them to me, and I will put them in the video and the weekly updates and everything. So it's nice to have a little bit of extra content that I can give, as well as my talking about all the stuff that's on the maps. Okay, so that's what's happened in Lone Trek. And as you can see, so Alnanen was in the end, a 132 billion loss. So that was a pretty hefty loss there from No Handlebars. And like you'll see later on, No Handlebars had another thing going down, and that was actually in Khanid. So if we go back to our universe map, Khanid is down here. And it was actually, I'll go to the Queries map because it's a little bit easier. It was in Effa. So Effa is right here. And if we actually then switch over into Effa, there we go. So where is my Effa? There we go, down here. you can see that it's very, very much favored by pirates because it's got a link into high-sec, or 3 gates into high-sec, and then 1 into Quirius. So it's a great place to go kind of whaling and taking small gang fleets into Quirius for fights and stuff. Now, No Handlebars had an Astra House here. And this Astra House they tried to save the Astra House. Now, what actually happened is, if I could find the battle report, here we go. What was unusual about it was the Astra House eventually was going to die. Now, the thing was that Exiled Gaming have usually been enemies of Legacy Coalition and of the groups in Quirius, primarily Brave Collective, Severance, and Sentinel Dawn. But they actually teamed up with them to destroy this Astra House. So it looks like No Handlebars are actually kind of going after Exiled Gaming as well. But the thing that happened with this is that things looked a bit shaky. It looks like the Astra House was going to die. And so the FC warped the Tempest Fleet issues to the high-sec gate, but didn't take into account that he actually still had his weapons timer. And so none of these Tempests were able to jump through. And then the Leshaks were able to get on top of them, and it started getting pretty crazy. But what was unusual, and this is kind of where it got a bit confusing, and I've had conflicting reports here, is we have a Revelation and an Apostle. And these, as I understand, warped from the Astra House to the high-sec gate. So I don't know whether they were fleet warped by accident, because obviously they can't jump into high-sec, or whether they tried to come in, and whether that was I haven't checked to see if there's a high-angle weapons dread, whether they came in to try and save the Tempest Fleet issues and get them out. So that's pretty much unclear, but either way, they died as well. And it's not often that you get kind of dreads and apostles kind of dying on a high-sec gate. So that was worth a mention as well. So yeah, so that didn't work out too well for No Handlebars there. A couple of mistakes made on both of those situations, and that's the consequences of it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually we're going to do our giveaway. So my giveaway this week is for the Raven. Ooh, Raven. So the Raven's actually used quite a lot by nullsec pilots for defending structures and things like that. So yeah, I expect this one to be extremely popular. And as always, you have to make a sentence up in the comments below. That's the YouTube comments, not the chat if you're watching the premiere. And mention a keyword. And I think the keyword this week should be super. So you can either use it in the sense of a super capital, or you can use it in the sense of something is just super. So up to you. As always, the cutoff date is this coming Friday, which is the 9th of July at 1800 UTC. So make sure you get your comment in before then. Oh, and another thing as well, I keep forgetting to mention on my videos, I really should. Frost Ees OP is going to E-Vegas, that's Niall and myself. And the idea is we're going to try and cover E-Vegas as well as to meet up with a lot of people that watch the channel and a whole bunch of other pilots as well. And that's on from the 22nd to the 24th of October this year. All right, so let's go back to our map. So onto our universe map. Now we're going to go to Curse quickly. So the initiative have redeployed. I think that's enough re's. They've redeployed to GTAC OQ86, dropped a whole bunch of structures there. And their main purpose for this, as I understand, is that they just want to get some content out of Fire Coalition. And they've been doing this. And in fact, I have a battle report. See if I can pick the right one. There we go. This was in FTAC 5 FDA. They basically destroyed an iHub. You can see the iHub is actually right there. And I understand from the initiative, they're not actually interested in any kind of soft warfare. They're just setting off timers to create fights. But they brought out Ishtars, and Ishtars were kind of the thing for Fire Coalition. And as a consequence of these Ishtars, there was quite a big loss there to Fire Coalition, a 13.7 billion ISK lost. And most of this was down to basically these Serbs being jumped through a gate. And the first thing to take the hit was the Vulture. Now the Vulture had the info links. The info links are the things that give the range to the Serbs or extend their range even more. So as soon as you lose that, you lose kind of one of the key advantages of the Serbs, which is their extra long range, which obviously didn't help. But the thing that was really surprising about this is that Legion of Death have used Ishtar doctrines a lot in the past. And it looks like the initiative dropped a whole bunch of sentries on a gate and the FC decided, from Fire Coalition, decided to jump the Serbs through, and they got mauled, and that's basically where the majority of this happened. But either way, both sides were happy to engage in a fight, and understand that there was GFs all round again on this one. So as I said, fights are happening, but they're not happening in Delve, they're happening all over New Eden. Right, so I mentioned Scalding Pass because that was the F5 FDA hub, which is where this fight took place. Right, now we're going to go on to Tenerifis. So what I want to show you with Tenerifis is something a bit unusual here. So we have a new alliance, which hasn't been here before, called the Dragon Dynasty. And there are only 149 characters, and they've taken this whole constellation. They actually took this system previously, and it was just a one-off, so I kind of ignored it. Just the same way that Literally Triggered took a system a few weeks ago. But they seem to be settling in here. Now, I don't know anything about the Dragon Dynasty. If you do, please pop onto my Discord. If you're part of Dragon Dynasty, please come and talk to me. I would love to know more as to kind of why you're here and what your plans are. And if there's any activity that you want to report on around that. So then I need to mention Fethabolis and Impasse, because there's some stuff going on there. So in Fethabolis and Impasse, in Fethabolis, what we're seeing is Vindictive took this constellation down here a week or two ago, and they've now started taking more Sov, and it looks like they're kind of attacking Red Alliance, taking their Sov from them. And actually, if we actually go into Impasse itself, you can see they've actually also two Red Alliance sovereignty iHubs have been reinforced. And this is the first time we've seen any activity kind of coming into Impasse from a Sov point of view. So I don't know whether that's actually sort of a sign of things to come, as to whether there's going to be more involved in that. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on. So yeah, that's that. Just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. And then we're going to come on to Catch. So Catch, first thing I need to mention is TIKLE. So I said last week that TIKLE, that's Tactical Supremacy, had been pushed out by few, which is Purple Helmeted Warriors. They hadn't been pushed out. They actually left on good terms. They're on good relations with Wrecking Crew. But if we actually look at Tactical Supremacy, and this is the kind of the big news of the week, I should have mentioned it probably at the beginning, is that there is only one member in TIKLE now. But the reason why is because TIKLE have moved to the initiative. So there we go. So that's the bulk of Tactical Supremacy. Now, Tactical Supremacy are a Australian time zone based group. And there's three other corporations there that also came out of TIKLE. I don't know if they're joining the initiative. There's another 70 or so characters. Well, I'm sure we'll see that in the next week or so. But the thing that's kind of important here is that this is a good match for both sides. For the initiative, they've always really struggled in the AU time zone. And that is the reason why, I can't remember now if it was, I think it was either Slice or Pandemic Horde, put all their timers in Ethereum Reach into the AU time zone because the initiative couldn't form enough numbers to be able to deal with it. So that has now changed. So that potentially is a benefit to the initiative from that point of view. And from the point of view of TIKLE, or the ex-TIKLE pilots, should I say, the initiative are great at finding content. And so that probably means that there's going to give them more content, get their players logging in more, and get more activity from them, as there really wasn't that much going on in them for Catch or in the surrounding regions. So yeah, we'll see what happens there, and we'll see if the initiative start making good use of that extra support in the AU time zone. All right, so coming back to Catch, the other thing to mention as well is that if you remember last week, this constellation was taken by Severance and Siege Green. I had mentioned that I thought a couple of the iHubs had been reinforced. It was in fact the TCUs were being reinforced with the old TCUs from Drakari's. And now Siege Green have been busy, and they've actually taken a whole other constellation from Drakari's. So Drakari's are kind of being pushed into a corner now. And I don't know quite where that's going as to whether that's going to continue. I don't know whether Siege Green actually have the numbers to be able to maintain this many systems. So that's something to look at as to whether Drakari's will be able to push back or not. Then the last piece of news for Catch is weapons of mass production have started taking this constellation. Now, weapons of mass production are part of Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew are primarily in Providence, but obviously you've got DreadBomb, which is all the AT0 stuff here. So they're already in Catch. And then Few are also part of Wrecking Crew, so they're over here. And now we've got this extra area being taken by weapons of mass production, or WOMP for short. So it looks like Wrecking Crew are looking to expand and potentially move more heavily into Catch. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually go after Siege Green and decide to go and take that territory, and maybe even Dracarys. Although Dracarys is aligned to the Imperium, and I don't know how much DreadBomb want to go head on, or not just DreadBomb, but Wrecking Crew as a whole want to go on to aggressing the Imperium. So that remains to be seen. And then we can move on from there, and then we're going to go quickly on to Stain. So Stain, the reason why I want to bring up Stain, if I can find the right battle report, is this one. It's just more that obviously Pandemic Horde is still over that way, so Pandemic Horde seem to be very much doing stuff in Esoteria these days and against the Bastion in Stain. But we can also see that Invidia Glory comes make a showing here. So if you remember, they're the guys that got pushed out by Fire Coalition from Fethabolis. It looks like they're now in Stain. The Bastion are then deployed there, and nothing but Ferrata Victrix were always in Stain, and they kind of just moved back into that area as well. So kind of familiar names that we've all seen before. And then obviously we've got Red Alliance, which is part of Red Menace Coalition, with Sorry in Advance and Wrong. Although I've heard rumors that things may not be 100% there, but I don't have anything concrete. So if that changes or anything happens with the Red Menace Coalition, I'll be sure to let you know. But anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that these people are engaged and this is what they're up to in that particular region. And then we can go on to period basis. So in period basis, what I've got to talk about there, so period basis being at the bottom of the map, and it is in Legacy Coalition territory, right there in the corner. And so what happened is an Astra House was destroyed. Now, the thing about this Astra House was that this kill mail doesn't look too big, but it's actually the fact that this Astra House was abandoned and the loot ferry dropped. And the loot ferry dropped big time on this one. And you can see from down in the bottom right-hand corner here, hopefully my wheel's not covering it, if not I'll make it disappear. 61 billion was dropped from this Astra House as a consequence of it being abandoned. So if you're not sure of the mechanic, if an Astra House is abandoned, then anything that's in it gets ejected rather than asset safety. And so this was the case, so 61 billion drop. Now the thing about this is that even though it was a test alliance Fortizar, it actually belonged to Siberian Alpha Fleet. And I should also mention as well, you can see here, the Astra House is, where is it? I can't even see the Astra House on here. Basically, there's 2 pages of ships that were dropped. So you can see here all these solo kills. This is all stuff that got dropped, that got killed by Goonswarm when they actually hit this structure. So you can see there's like 2 pages worth. But the thing is it belonged to Siberian Alpha Fleet. Now, Siberian Alpha Fleet, it looks like they moved into test purely for the benefit of not having to move any structures and not having to move any stuff. And almost all of the stuff that you saw there that was dying belonged to Siberian Alpha Fleet. And they're actually part of Fire Coalition. And you can see they were then part of Siberian Squad, who then flipped and flopped between the Imperium and Fire Coalition. And then a long time ago were part of Legion of Death. So definitely a Russian alliance. And it looks like they were just there for the opportunity. Having said that, even though it wasn't kind of proper Legacy Coalition stuff that was lost, it was still Test's responsibility to maintain this Astra House and make sure that it didn't die with stuff that belonged to other people in Legacy Coalition. And this is one of the problems with having a very big alliance that spreads over multiple regions, is that you don't get kind of that mix of different players and different structures for them to be used. And so these structures are just left kind of on their own, not doing anything. No one actually realizes it's been abandoned. And by the time it's actually you can do anything about it, it's on the kill mail. So yeah, that's one of the problems with, like I said, with big alliances and covering large regions. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to cover that. Okay, then we're going to quickly just cover Outer Ring. So Outer Ring, if you remember, basically Test have been based out of a Fortizar in GA-2, V7, there we go, right there. And they've basically been jumping all over the place and removing anything that they believe belongs to alts of the Imperium. And they've killed another 3 structures. If I bring up my structures here and look at Fortizars, you will see we've got, let's see, where is it? We've got Outer Ring, there we go. So we had June 28th was last week, I covered that one. So there was this one here, there was this one here, and I believe there was another one somewhere. I thought there was another one. Or maybe that, oh no, 1833, so that would have been after I made last week's video. So there you go, so those are the 3 that were destroyed by test. So they're kind of still active in that point there in terms of cleaning up the outer ring of anything that they think may be a problem for them. All right, so coming back to my universe map, so I'm clicking all over the place here, then we are going to come into Delve. So in Delve, there isn't really much to talk about, except that there were kind of 2 interesting fleets. One was in 3-D MQT, and the other one was in 319-3D. So the reason why I want to mention these is because the first one was actually a fun fleet, a celebratory fleet of some reason. I believe it's something to do with real life, but a whole bunch of FCs in TES decided to YOLO a bunch of Marauders into 3-TAC-D for the lulz. And as you can see here, they got some juicy killmails for the Imperium. So it's a 25 billion loss, primarily down to these 4 Marauders that were jumped in. So there were some battleships in there as well, including a bar guest. You don't often see a bar guest on a killmail. So very much a fun fleet there. And hopefully both sides got what they wanted out of it and got some fun out of it. And then the other killmail or battle report is actually to do with a POS that was being killed by 5 dreadnoughts from TES. But the thing was that these dreadnoughts didn't have a support fleet. They went out on their own and they got spotted. And so the Imperium started to flash form Feroxes and the Pappy side started to flash form Eagles. Now what happened was the Feroxes were able to get there before the Eagle fleet was able to save them. And in fact, I have once again a video here, and this will be linked in the description. This is from the Imperium's point of view. This was the Ferox fleet jumping in onto these Revelations. You can see the Revelations there are all bubbled, and they were made short work of. But the thing is that the Eagle fleet then had the Imperium Feroxes trapped, and they couldn't get them out. And so what happened was in another video, which is right here, and what it was that you can see it here, that the Ragnarok logged into a pod, walked to a pause, jumped out all of the players from the Imperium, and now you see the Eagle fleet arriving. And what's happening is this Titan pilot is trying to log off, safe log, whilst in the pods. And this is where he had a real white knuckle moment, because you can see here, right here, he gets bounced, and he had to make a decision then to stop his safe log, put on his prop mod on, get himself back into the pods, and then go and safe log again. So that was a proper white knuckle moment, and creds to the Titan pilot there for not losing the plot and actually making the right move and actually cancelling the safe log and not actually getting bounced out of the pods. But that was very much a close one. And once again, both videos are linked in the description below. And that was worth a watch, that one, because that was that could have gone very, very badly wrong. All right, then finally, I'm just going to finish off with Parchment in terms of the regions. Last week, I made a mistake. I said all of the Triglavian alliances were killing their own structures. That was not correct. And in fact, the week before, I actually got it correct and said that there are 2 groups within the Triglavian alliances. One group decided to suit all its structures. The other one is kind of a more loosely knit group in the sense that some of the players are in dock workers, but they still consider themselves to be Triglavian aligned. And there's Wardens of the Abyssal Overwatch as well, who are part of that group. And they have their own agenda that is separate from the other alliances, which is the alliances such as ITC, and I've forgotten their names right now because I've had a mind blank. But yeah, so Maldavius and Zeno's group, etc., etc. And I will just put it in the comments. It'll be easier than trying to remember right now. Okay, so I've got a lot on my mind right now. There's a lot of stuff that I had to cover. All right, so that's my excuse. Anyway, then we're just going to come on very lastly to the Hunter's Boon. Now, the Hunter's Boon update I covered last week, and the things that I covered have now been updated, and this is potentially going to come out tomorrow. That's the 6th of July. If it's not tomorrow, it'll be the week after, but I've got a feeling it's going to be tomorrow. The areas that I wanted to cover was, first of all, the mobile Sino has now been changed, and they've now made it so that you need anchoring level 5. And as you can see, that's on a basic tune with no implants. That's a 57-day train to get this covert mobile sinosaural beacon. So I can't see it being used very much by alts because the anchoring 5 is a pain. They might as well just train up into a bomber or something like that, and then they can just use a covert sino anyway. So I think this is going to be a very specialized application. As I said, it's very difficult to fit into interdictors. It can only fit into the flycatcher, and you can hardly carry any cargo as a consequence. So we'll see what happens with that. Then the pacifier I mentioned had its power grid increase. It's actually had a CPU increase on the pacifier as well. So that's going to be good because it's going to help on the mid slots on things putting like tackle on and stuff like that. But the main thing is that we've now seen a bastion change being put in. Now this affects the Marauders, the bastion module. And basically it used to be pretty much invulnerable to EWAR, similar to a dreadnought. And it had a very, very difficult to scan down. Now this is the big thing. So the EWAR resistances is one thing, but the thing that is the big change is that this sensor strength of 200% used to be 1000%. Now one of the things the sensor strength helps with is in being scanned down, because it makes you much harder to be scanned down. And this meant that Marauders were able to get into dead space in low sec and in null sec to do escalations and things like that. And they weren't able to be probed down, or with great difficulty. But now, someone with good skills will be able to probe this down very quickly. And the question now is that the Bastion module, if I remember correctly, runs for 30 seconds. Now, before, they were able to basically, if anybody came into the system, they could quite comfortably turn off their Bastion module, go red on the Bastion module, and then either cloak up or warp to a friendly structure if it had one in system. Now they stand a potential chance of being trapped. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether Marauders are still going to be used and how easy they are to be scanned down now that this sensor strength has gone from 1000% down to 200%. So, because the battleship is a Marauders, a battleship is a pretty beefy thing anyway, so it's pretty easy to target, to probe down at 100%. So at 200, I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference in terms of the time it takes to track it down. So that's going to be something to look out for. All right, so I think I'm up to date on everything. And yeah, so as always, please do like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Mention me in your Corp Discord, in your Alliance Discords. Thank you for CCP for mentioning me in their Jabba and for giving me a mention there in their own chats. And as always, thank you for watching, and until the next one. That's all from me. Bye.